What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. Make your next thing a big one. Are you not entertained? Speaking of entertained, on the program today, Kendra Muecke. Who's Kendra Muecke? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes if you don't know by now. This week's shows, I have two public shows this week. I'll be on Thursday evening at the Cedar Lounge Bar and Grill in Morrilton, Arkansas, the video dance party karaoke jam. Yeah, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. I'm just pressing buttons. They got the kitchen. They got they have drinks, they got food, they got good people, they got staff that's wonderful, always attentive. That's my newest public show, so it's just been getting better and better and better every week. Who would have thought? Morrilton, Arkansas. Yes, the town of Morrilton, Arkansas. Those people know how to party. What does he mean by those people? Yeah, you people know how to party. That's Thursday evening from 6 to 10. And then on Friday night, my regular Friday night gig. Now, that one I've been doing for years. The Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The place to be on a Friday night. Yeah. They got the full kitchen, the bar, the full bar, the pool tables, pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the Rab, Conway, Arkansas. Be there. Do it. That's from 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. And then on Saturday, the only reason I'm mentioning this, I have a wedding on Saturday. I'm just excited that weddings are coming back. Weddings are my specialty. I enjoy partying with the people. Yeah, let me be a part of your wedding day. I'll be an extension of you. You know what the best part is? I have a planning form and the music requests and the event timeline. The more you plan, the better I will be for you. And that's what you do. You plan, and then you end up with a great day. And that's exciting. I get nervous before should I even mention this? I get nervous before every wedding because I want it to go perfectly. But then, at the end, it's always good. It went extremely well. I'm very excited that happened. Oh, also on the public shows, make sure that you wear a mask, on the way in to the show at the Cedar Lounge Bar and Grill and at the Rab. Make sure you wear a mask while you're walking around, while you're interacting with people. While you're sitting down, you could take the mask off so you could have your food and have your drinks. But certainly while you're walking around, wear your mask. Trying to keep each other safe during this time, this crazy, crazy time of COVID. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Kendra Muecke. Kendra Muecke. Now, I got her on the Skype, so if you're listening to the audio-only version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version on YouTube, youtube.com/user/KeysDan, or just look up Keys Dan on the YouTube video and find I have 3 different YouTubes out there, so find the one that has the Radio What logo right next to my name, and then you'll find Kendra Muecke. Yeah. All right. Let's get into it with Kendra Muecke. Skyping Kendra Muecke now.
Sometimes I quit. I don't know if you use MacBook or not, but there's like Command Q, and sometimes I just hit it instead of Command W, so I close the app.
I haven't used an Apple since high school, 1982.
You're back in the heyday.
Maybe 86 is when I graduated. So, that gives you a little idea of how old I am. All right, I got Kendra Muecke on the line. What's up?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. You're hanging out on the What Makes You Famous podcast. It's nice to see you. This technology is wonderful. You know, I see you have set up an area for yourself, and I have done the same thing, a little area that puts a little advertising behind you. You know, you got that self advertising, which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a DJ, so, and if I could, well, I actually do have DJ on the side of my van. So yeah, you know, if you could shout it from the rooftops that you're an entertainer, especially because entertainers, there's a starving artist is a statement that gets thrown around a lot. So when you're an artist, unless you hustle, unless you put yourself out there over and over and keep working, people are going to forget about you. That's what I find. And so as a DJ, it was 2 turntables and a microphone. Now I have to be the MC. I have to be the promoter. I have to be the lighting guy. I have to put up all the sound. Kendra, and I know we're just getting to know each other, just getting to meet each other. I've perused you a little bit on social media, but give the people a little idea of who you are, Kendra Muecke.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. So I'm a singer, songwriter, writer, actress, artist. I've published some books too. I'm very much into spirituality as well. I do a little bit of like healing work and stuff like that. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I got into the entertainment industry and arts through acting, musical theater, and the theater. I was around like age 4 when I saw someone on the TV screen in our living room, and I said, "Mom, is that what a movie star is?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, I want to do that." So then I headed down to the local theater, started taking professional lessons, and I was there like multiple times a week, learning vocals, dance, tap dancing, acting, all of that. Was so passionate about it. So acting was my start, and of course there was vocal lessons and stuff like that. Then in high school, I discovered, or rather it discovered me, rock and roll music and poetry. And I was like, this is amazing, because I went from musical theater where there was, the songs that were written to carry the story along. So it's like, you're in a play, then this character does this, and then they break into a song about their recent breakup and why they're going through the breakup and all that. And then you learn about the character through the song. And I was listening to like Led Zeppelin and like the Beatles, and I was like, Penny Lane is probably a whole person, and you could write a whole story and a whole play about who this person is. And I realized that like rock and roll also has so much story and narrative to it. So then I started to listen to rock and roll, started to sing rock and roll, write my own poetry. Then I picked up the guitar soon after that, and it just kind of, unfolded with lots of different moments in my life that led to the unfolding. But that's essentially the quick and dirty of it.
No, Kendra Muecke, yeah, it's amazing that you say that you listen to classic rock and you like musicals. I love musicals, but the classic rock and the musical genre have come together so many times. The two that I can think of in my head. Have you ever seen the Who's Tommy and Pink Floyd's The Wall?
Yeah, both really great. I saw Pink Floyd's The Wall with Roger Waters at the Hollywood Bowl in like 2012 or something.
But you saw like a laser show, or did you see the laser show or the actual movie itself?
The laser show.
Yes.
With Roger Waters present, like his whole, I wouldn't necessarily call it a laser show, but it was like a elaborate light show, with graphics and video projections and the live band and all that. I haven't seen the movie, but I have seen the Grateful Dead movie. I'm also a Grateful Dead fan.
What? Okay,
Huge fan.
Looking at your music, what is it? What is it? What's that T-shirt you're
I'm
wearing?
wearing Jerry on my shirt.
Look at you.
I just happened to put this on today. I was like, oh, okay.
See,
He's a Dead fan.
I could never claim to be a Deadhead at all. I've loved the band. I like the music, but I've never seen them in concert. Unfortunately, you'll never see them in concert because a lot of the guys are dead. So unfortunately,
well, they have the new project Dead and Company that does a really great job, but the songs are a little bit different in just like the tempo. The songs are a little bit more bluesy now because John Mayer has a very blues style of guitar playing. So like you can still see Dead and Company and see, Phil Lesh and Friends and offshoots of the original Grateful Dead. But yeah, I hear seeing it with Jerry is a totally different experience. And Jerry passed in 95.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. The fans of the Grateful Dead are true fans, are diehard fans, like Parrot Heads, like the Kiss Army. It's amazing to have a band, that has that much influence, that it could create a whole nation, a whole following. As a musician, have you experienced any little inkling of that when you're doing your shows, when you're going out with the Bunnies? I guess that's the cutest name ever, the Bunnies. I got to ask you how that came about, and have you experienced anything with your fans?
Yeah, I have experienced that. It's almost like the people who become my fans are like diehard fans, and I think it's because I open myself up to be somewhat of an open book, and I expose myself in a vulnerable place, because I'm writing these lyrics and these songs and these poems, etc., from a place of, a recent one that I wrote is I was working on this one about depression today, and I was talking with my friend, and he was like, well, why don't you use a different word than depression or something, and to make it more accessible to more people, not that everyone deals with waking up with a pit in their stomach, not like I do every day, but not everyone deals with that. And then I realized, I'm like, this is probably something that gravitates people towards me, is that I'm like, this is how it is. This is what I think and feel. And then on the other hand, I wrote a song that we worked on today that is just so cheery. And the hook of the song is, I have to say, we'll be okay. So I have run into a little bit of a cult following. And since I come from, being a Deadhead and some other stuff, some other music and artists I follow, I'm looking for a cult following. Yeah, I want them to be all about the Bunnies and know every lyric to every song.
So it would make sense. Do you call your fans the Bunnies?
They are the Bunnies, yeah.
That's fantastic. So how did Kendra and the Bunnies come about? How did that name? Did you have bunnies when you were a kid?
That would be funny. No, we actually had kitty cats when I was a kid, but they were soft like rabbits. So the way that the Bunnies came about was originally from the story of Alice in Wonderland. So a few different things from this story of Alice in Wonderland, the White Rabbit, and I just loved this story. I think it's so symbolic of like psychology and the way that we think, because this girl falls into a dream state. She experiences all this stuff, but it's really unveiling of her subconscious or something. So there's this character, the White Rabbit, who runs in, and he's like, his eyes are bloodshot. It's like he's had like 10 cups of coffee, but he's like so energized, but also like so frantic. And he's like, I'm late. But he's not late because he's the first character that she meets in the story. So it's like a way of talking about anxiety or feeling like, oh no, I got to do this, or I got to do that. I got to do this. I'm late. But it's also like at the same time, you're in the right place at the right time, thinking the right thing, because you could just be a character who's written to be anxious, and you don't actually have to be anxious, if that made sense. Like, you're not actually late for anything. You're right on time. Mm-hmm. You just think you're late. So that's what drew me to that character. Also the whole messaging of like following yourself into self-discovery and realizing different facets about ourselves. And then the main thing was Jefferson Airplane's song White Rabbit with Grace Slick singing that. People have said that my voice is very much similar to Grace Slick, or I'm reminiscent of her, and that's a huge compliment. But her song White Rabbit, I sang it at rock and roll summer camp. Yes, I went to band camp at age like 15, and I was like, 16, 17, whatever. I was like, this song. I mean, she's just like standing on top of a mountaintop or a mushroom and just singing. So there's so much soul to it. It's like haunting almost. So those are the two draws for like the rabbit symbol. But then on the other hand, we have the Playboy bunnies. So like I could be like very symbolic of like following your dreams and being aware of what your subconscious is telling you and deep diving into psychology and stuff like that. Or I could just be like a blonde with like a lot of far out ideas, and like it's cute that she thinks that she's doing something important. But we'll just let her do it because, heck, she looks good when she does it.
Kendra Muecke, I was going to say, being a blonde that kind of looks like an Alice, yeah, that kind of would make sense with that story as well. So it all meshes together, and yes, I suppose sex sells. So if you got it, use it, right? But
They say that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah.
used it my whole life. Look at me. Come on. No, but Grace Slick is definitely someone to be emulated by. If someone compares you to Grace Slick, I would say high compliment. That's wonderful. And I noticed on your videos, there's a lot of 60s inspired, a lot of 70s inspired, very old school. You have like an old soul. Did you raid your mom's closet or maybe your grandma's closet? I don't even know how old you are. You said back in high school you did stuff, and I don't know what the timeline is on that.
Well, it wasn't too distant of a past ago that I was in high school, but it was somewhat of a distant past ago. That's interesting because neither of my parents were the typical boomers or the typical, I guess they're typical boomers, but they weren't the typical, they weren't flower children at all. They were just, who they are. And so I didn't grow up with hippies or anything, or, my mom listened to Elton John and my dad listened to Neil Young. And then at some point I started listening to the Grateful Dead, and that just kind of set the course. I don't know. I think what drew me in was just seeing so many young people come together to have fun and sing about mission and message. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting on it now of, with everything happening this year. And I was thinking what would I have done back then? Is it historically accurate? Do I know what it was like to be there? I know the music. And so it's I guess maybe some of my next steps are to learn more about the history. I mean, I know about the history of the 60s, but the feeling of the 60s. I know that there was a lot of feeling that was happening.
I suspect, but I think
yeah.
young people have always been in touch with with change and wanting to make a difference in the world. When you come out of high school and you go towards college, even if you don't go to college or you go to college, especially the kids that go to college, they're young minds that are all coming together and trying to make their mark in the world. And you see something that you might think is wrong, and you get together with a whole group of people, and the social media is definitely helping to get people together in that respect. You can use it for good as well as evil. Have you seen The Social Dilemma? I just watched it yesterday. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about that for a while, even because I think about that in day-to-day life. I've been very influenced by just little comments that people make. I'm just walking on the street and someone's I don't know, but some comment that someone makes, and it shifts my perspective for a whole day, or it makes me think from a different perspective. And I'm wow. And then I've been thinking about how social media does the same thing. It's not just random things that you're shown, especially with the advertisements and the algorithms and stuff like that. It's very highly curated to someone exactly like you. We think that you would like this. And I'm I would really like that. That looks like something great to purchase. Here are 3 other things that you would also like. Yeah, I saw that documentary. I thought it was very interesting.
Quite interesting. It's amazing how you can get 100 comments and one is a bad comment, and the other 99 are wonderful, and you're going to dwell on that one bad because you want to know, what did I do to upset that person? And that person was random. That person you may not even know at all. It's weird.
It could be a robot.
It could be. It very well could be a robot turning you into your own avatar. But that's a whole nother story. I'm trying to get a perspective on the young people. I'm 51 years old, and I've grown up through that. I grew up before there was internet and computers and such. I mean, yes, I had computers growing up, but they were not nearly as sophisticated as they are now. I think of they were tools. They were tools to be used and to explore and to build things. And now, that movie's really hit hard, especially since I have a 15-year-old daughter who's probably going to get out on the internet and do try to make her mark as well. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great that the internet exists. I mean, it's definitely a tool, and it's an extension of who we are. As an artist, it's really great to be able to utilize all these social media platforms as well as my website and, music streaming platforms as like my art gallery. It's like I can send someone to my Facebook or my Instagram or my website, and they'll essentially get to know what it is I do, what I'm like, and as an artist, if they would like to hire me or collaborate or something like that. But then even as an individual, it's like, I know that people who apply for jobs and stuff like that, they're going to be Googled. And it's like, so then your social media becomes a representation of you. And I don't mean this in a way of like, ooh, your social media is a representation, but in like a good way, because someone will go to your Facebook or something and they'll go, oh, wow, she was with her family this past weekend and they went fly fishing. And, I used to go fly fishing. That's so great, so we get more of an insight into who people are. Yeah, but also the internet does not forget.
Oh, for sure.
That would be my second addendum to that.
Oh, for sure. People are getting canceled for things they said 20 years ago. Hey, when I was a kid, I was stupid. I said stupid things. I still say stupid things. Yeah. But I'm remembering job interviews, and they, the jobs would check your references, but mostly that was a call from three friends. You put the references down. It's three people that you've known for more than a year, and hopefully that you've done that you don't owe money to, because they'll give you a bad reference, or what have you. But that was the extent of checking references. Now, yeah, if you have your footprint on any social media, they have more avenues to explore, and they'll know that oh, you broke up with that girl 5 years ago, and she's doing much better than you now, or something, something random that really they have no business knowing about. But yeah,
that's the flip side though too, because then it's like when trends come up and it's like, oh, I need to show that I am against this trend. It can also be, it's an interesting area. Sometimes I'm like, okay, what do I say? But yeah, I mean, social media is so beneficial, but on the other hand, it has become pretty brutal with just like, it's feeling like we can sum people up after just seeing a few snapshots of who they are. Like there could be a day where someone posts a status and they are coming from a place where they were hurt, and we can't judge everything we think about them on that one post. And furthermore, we can't judge people off of a brief look into their life anyway. If we want to like judge people, which, we all kind of do, we would have to get to know them for years and get to know how they are with their family and how they treat their dog, and if they use their blinker, and do they cut people off in traffic? There's so much more to a person than just what we see.
Yeah, that's the nuance of it, to throw that word out. That's people are not just one thing, and sometimes they're mad. I've been mad before. I've never had the urge to put my madness down on the internet, but I see that people have. Shoot, there's people that are growing up now that are nearly 18 years old. They're in their teens now, and they've never known a world without the internet. Did you know the world before the internet?
A little bit. I had a few years where the internet was just kind of starting. But then I would say in my early age, we were started with like typing classes, computer classes. We had a computer in the house. But the internet and like instant messenger and like AOL, that really didn't come about until I was like, I don't know, like middle school or something, where it became actually relevant, maybe like sixth grade or something. Yeah. So I had a little bit of upbringing without the internet. So I think that's really great, because I was able to like format living in day-to-day life without staring at a screen. And now it's all screens. It's like a little bit of daily life, but all screens.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. And I guess it's parking your brain. A lot of people don't have to learn things. I guess it feels like you don't have to learn as much as you did before, because you have your brain in your pocket, in your hands all the time. I don't know the answer to that question. Let me Google it real quick. But do you retain that knowledge as well as if you had read a book on the subject and retained the knowledge that way? But my goodness,
Right.
So far I'm having a good time talking to you because I know I'm getting some knowledge. You're dropping some knowledge on me, Kendra Muecke, and I know that you must put this stuff down on paper, or is it? Wait, how do you write songs these days? Is it on paper? Is it on computer?
Yes.
Do you play a guitar into an app that automatically puts the notes on there for you? I don't get it. I don't know what's going on.
So this is how my song, I know that we're on a radio show, but this is how my songwriting book looks. It's just scribbles, words, scribbles, chords and stuff like that. But yeah, so I'll write, most of my stuff I write by hand, especially poetry, song lyrics, chord progressions and all that. It's not until I'm ready to get to publishing that I put it onto the computer. Or if I'm writing like a short story or something that has beginning, middle, and end, that's like a full narrative, I'll write it just straight up on my laptop for ease of editing and stuff like that. But I pretty much stick to like handwriting. And my first album is titled Of Vinyl, and that's saying like, I'm of the era of organic music, and like I'm of the era of real records versus streaming, because technically the first album of mine could have been called like Of Internet, of Streaming, but I chose to do Of Vinyl. And then I took my handwritten poems and turned them into a book that you'll see. 2 books. I've written 2 books so far. So I do like to get it out there and get it in a book so people can, it's forever out there. So like when I have big ideas, I'm like, okay, I need to write this down, get it down so it's historically here.
Yeah, so there's so many different avenues of you. I'm catching the songwriting, the Kendra Muecke. Now, what would have been the first thing that struck you as a young person in school, in middle school, and maybe even in grade school? Mm-hmm. Was it the writing? Was it the thought of being an actor? Because you said that you saw that and you said, oh, I want to be that. I want to be there, go that way. But what was the first avenue that you explored as a young person in school?
I loved school so much, loved it so much. So I would go, of course I had like my artsy side, but I also had like my educational side too. So like after school, I was going to the theater to do singing, dancing, and acting lessons. So I always liked the fact of like being on stage, being somewhat of a center of attention, sharing sometimes the attention with the cast, but I love performing, when my family would have people over for Thanksgiving, I'm like, hey everyone, I just learned this tap dance, and then I'd perform it for everyone. There's just something about performing and that energy and that electricity that draws me to the performing arts in general. And then I'd say in school, I really, really liked English class, and like that translates to what I do today, but I also really liked science and math. I liked history, but it was hard for me to retain the information because there's so many dates and like this leads to this, leads to this. And then in 1812, and it's like, that's a lot of dates. I enjoyed listening to the teacher, but it was like, this is a lot of stuff to remember. But then like in science and math, it was never difficult to remember the stuff because everything kind of linked together. Like chemistry, I really liked chemistry. I really liked biology, algebra, calculus. And I think that does translate into the arts, like, knowing how to be in the scene, because there's certain dynamics that are going to be picked up by the camera, and like how to write a song. It's very mathematical. It can be mathematical on how we write songs. Like I know that this structure works. Verse 1, verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, verse 3, pre-chorus, chorus, refrain, end. And like that's just a good format to go with. So yeah, they all overlap, and I loved learning. I loved it. Absolutely. And I learned still all the time. And I'm a little bit more interested in history now as I've gotten older and started to think about, oh yeah, history repeats itself. But let me go learn about what's going to happen next by reading what happened then.
Oh yeah, Kendra Muecke. I as a non-musician, I understood about 9 of the 100 words that you just said about writing and composition and such, but I do feel that it does relate. I've heard so many people say that music is mathematical. It's but it's also been likened to writing a sentence. When you're writing out a musical phrase, it's like writing a story. You know how to read. Do you know how to read and write music? And what instruments are you playing?
So I grew up playing the piano, meaning like most of my music theory goes back to knowing how the piano works, and just like sheet music and all that. I play the guitar now, and now I'm relearning the piano since I played it when I was younger. And I have to say, it's really like mathematical, even music theory, and the way that notes are, and the way that notes are in different keys. Like, for instance, you take a C major scale, and you're going to be using those same ideas to tell you what is part of the D major scale, but the D major is going to change. And the way that it changes is that it goes up a full note. So mathematically, you're going, okay, everything that was C is now D, and everything that was D is now E. And so you're mathematically noticing what the notes are for those chords by adjusting by half a step or a full step, or it's called transposing music.
Oh, I'm fascinated by everything
amazing.
You're saying. Even if I don't know how to read or write music or even play music, I'm fascinated by the. I know that you have the ability to make music. I have and I have a full piano here, or a full keyboard that my 15-year-old plays, and I'm so impressed that she can actually play songs and music, and just it makes me happy when I hear her playing the piano in the house. It puts a smile on my face. It lowers my blood pressure. It makes me feel good that I have such a talented daughter in the house. And it's amazing. It really is. And music can do that for a person. It can change your attitude. It can change how you feel. And Kendra Muecke, you have the ability to do that with your words and your music. But did you start with poetry and turn it into songs, or did you go in thinking, hey, I'm going to write a song, and it go, I don't know the difference between writing a poem and writing a song? Is it the same and you just put it to music? Is there something different?
It can be a little bit different. It depends. So like there's some poems that make more sense on a piece of paper because like for instance, there's this poem I wrote about trees. So I ended up formatting the poem on my piece of paper that it looked like a tree. It's like first word at the top and then 2 words underneath and then 3 words underneath. It's shaped like an evergreen tree. And then when you get to the bottom of the poem, it goes back to a few words underneath to create the trunk of the tree. And that's something that, although it sounds really good when I recite it because it's like it rhymes with each other, it's a full poem, it makes more sense on paper. There's also poems, that is also true for poems that don't rhyme as much. They make sense on paper because the reader understands it in their mind. Then there's poems that are best when they're said out loud because the rhymes make sense, or maybe there's 2 words that kind of collaborate with each other, but they don't exactly rhyme. And so it makes sense like when you present them in a spoken word format. And then there's a different category of poems that I write, or poems in general, that make sense over music because of the beats. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, pause. And then it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're like, oh, well, that's the chorus. So then there's poems like that too. So when I approach a song with all that information at hand, when I approach a song, I just let it be whatever it wants to be. If it is a song that just wants to have, 2 or 3 chords and I'm just saying the same thing in different ways over and over, that's cool. If it's a song that wants to be 5 chords and I'm saying all sorts of stuff, that's cool too. I'm very much an advocate of like, as an artist, just say it like you want to say it. Sometimes I think about like, if Picasso was in art school and the teacher's like, okay, that's great, Picasso, that you can like do really abstract portraits that are pleasing to the eye and different and unique, but why don't you try something different? And he's like, all right, fine, I'll try something different. But at the end of the day, what made Picasso, because he does have like his realistic style paintings and like landscape painting and stuff that are not his traditional style, but what made him is that he's just painting boom, 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 that's a face. Boom, 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 traditional Picasso. And so it's like, paint what you know to be what you want to paint. Write the song like you want to write it. It might not make sense to other people. They might say, hey, if you change this, it'll make it more radio friendly. And that's cool. If you want to change it to make it radio friendly, do. But if you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, Picasso definitely had his realistic side, but the parts that made him famous is putting two eyes on the same side of the head and a nose up here somewhere. That's what when you go outside. Well, I'm going to use outside of the box. When you think differently, that's what's gonna make you a rebel, a pioneer. But okay, you're writing poems, you're making songs. Something came into my head. Are you a fan of the song that tells a story, or do all songs have to repeat themselves? I'm thinking of Gordon Lightfoot, the Fall of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and wave hit the boat, and it's a story that really, it doesn't rhyme at all, but it's set to music, and it's one of the most beautiful songs of the 70s, and probably one of the first records that my mom gave to me and said, here son, check this out. But what songs have really hit you? I mean, I'm guessing some of the Grateful Dead songs, but Kendra Muecke, what songs really inspired you when you were very young, and what songs are, really have resonance for you right now?
Wow, that's such a good question. Because like a lot of music tells stories, but then some music is just it feels good, it just makes sense. Some of the choruses. I'd say some songs that have really made a difference in my life would be Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin, as well as like the Levee Breaks, Dazed and Confused. But those are more, when the Levee Breaks and Dazed and Confused and Kashmir are more about like the way that the way that the song sounds, versus like Stairway to Heaven is about the story of it. Some of The Who, We Won't Get Fooled Again. I mentioned Jefferson Airplane. Their entire album, Volunteers, as well as their song White Rabbit. I listened to Britney Spears a lot back in the day.
You did it. You came full circle. That's beautiful.
Yeah, the pop star I listened to. And then nowadays I listen to, like ambient kind of down-tempo electronic music too. Just something I can kind of meditate to. It's just this kind of thinking and feeling oasis that I like to listen to now. And so that could also be like in folk singer-songwriter land too. I like to listen to either stuff that's going to tell a story or stuff that I can like just relax to.
Oh, you're hitting the spectrum. What's funny is when I was on terrestrial radio down in Miami, I was at Exito 105.5, a now defunct radio station, and they played bilingual music, 2 English and 2 Spanish. But my 2 English, I would invariably use it to put a Britney Spears song on there. So much so that there's a page still out there floating on the internet that's Keys Dan's House of Britney. But the first songs, the first songs that you were talking about are epic songs. These are classic rock songs that when I was on several classic rock songs, and including Radio What, which is sitting behind me. And I encourage anybody that's listening to the audio version, check out the video version, because you'll see Kendra sitting right there next to me. See, I'm pointing, and you'll be right there next to me. There's a video version on
video version.
Oh,
okay,
yes,
cool.
on YouTube. And I play whatever music I want for the Radio What, but I had a lot of license down at Exito because it was kind of a mom and pop. Now, radio is something that you should be interested in now, because corporate radio, it's so hard for a new artist to get played on a on a corporate radio station that has, hundreds, maybe hundreds of different stations are being programmed by one person in a corporate office that may or may not know anything about music. So how, have you gotten on any of the terrestrial radio stations with your bunny, with the bunny music, Kendra and the Bunnies?
Yeah. So I've been on a lot of digital radio stations that are, and some terrestrial radio stations too, but some of the digital radio stations now, they're still functioning as like a commercialized station, but more artists are able to break through on the digital radio stations because there's more out there. There's more bandwidth for people to hear more music. So I've been on like super commercialized radio, but I think it's mostly digital. And then some terrestrial. Actually, I have about 24,000 spins on digital radio, and I got number 8 on the digital radio charts in between Dua Lipa and Miley Cyrus. That was at the beginning of the month. So it was like speculated that like 3 million people were hearing my song Nico Nico and getting tuned into the Bunnies.
That's a good place to be, between Dua Lipa and Miley Cyrus. Those are two fine singers. In fact, I had a wedding last night and I played New Rules. So, and all the ladies at the wedding last night, as soon as I put New Rules on, they were getting crazy, having a good time. So yeah, that's a good place to be. Yeah. And if I'd have had a Bunny song on there, I would definitely have played it. One of the things that a club DJ, which I get to do on Thursdays and Friday nights, I get to spin music that I want to hear, is I get to break new artists. And that's something, when I first started DJing professionally back in '86, and I was at the clubs in Miami, people would hand me their records all the time. Could you play this? Could you play this? No problem. I take a listen to it. If it's bumping, if it matches what the crowd wants that particular night, what they're expecting to hear when they come in, yes, I am going to bump that track. And if people are loving it, they're going to rush the DJ booth. Who is this? Who is this? Oh, that's Kendra and the Bunnies. Go check their music. That's a job that the DJ should have, but with corporate radio, you just don't have it. You don't have that leeway. It's all programmed from one guy up. But with radio, behind me, I can play what I want. If I want to play a Kendra and the Bunnies record, I will play a Kendra and the Bunnies record.
It's so systematic on what's played on the radio. Like, you're definitely right about that. And I've seen that in the music industry. It reminds me of like, how it would be to like campaign for office or something. You got to get your face out there. You got to go shake hands and say hello to mothers and get your name out there as much as possible. And it's totally possible. There is the story of, I love this story so much, of Madonna back in the 80s going into local clubs. I think she was in New York City, and she would have her album and she would be like, go up to the DJ and be like, play this. And they're like, all right, no, play this, no, play this, no, play this. And then finally someone's like, all right, I'll play it. And then they put on Material Girl, and basically the rest is history. But she had to keep showing up every single night, dressed how she wanted to represent herself, doing all the artistry things like you mentioned, like self-promotion to such an extent, and like persistence to such an extent that they're like, we'll give it a shot. And then it's like, boom, that's Madonna.
Oh yeah.
No need for a last name, Madonna.
Oh, you got that right. Funny, the growing up when Madonna was becoming big, like I said, I'm class of '86. I remember 84, 85. I want to say 85. I remember Madonna on MTV, and she was getting interviewed, and she was brand new back then, and probably still with Jelly Bean Benitez, her original DJ / boyfriend. I remember she was getting interviewed, and she said, what are your goals as a musician? And she said, I want to take over the world. And she did. And she definitely did.
She did.
Oh, she changed her style. Every time, I'm getting tired of that style. Bam, it's a whole new Madonna. And Miley Cyrus is doing the same thing. And Britney's doing the same thing. So, to become, can you be that person to where you change Well, I guess that's where your acting comes in. Is you have that. You could have theatrics, but do you change your style with every song that you sing? If Kendra and the Bunnies is on stage, can you have wardrobe changes to give you extra feel? Tell me more. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the wardrobe changes, that's so cool because like at the end of the day, it's about making the best art, making the best sound, and getting the message of the song just so refined that it does justice to the piece of art and to the piece of writing. The different phases that I could say, and it does change all the time because I get inspired by the most random things. It's like I see a license plate and I'm like, NYKO, New York Knockout. And that's what my recent single was that broke into the top 10. I was inspired by a trip I had to New York and a lot of other stuff. But what triggered it was I saw a license plate that said NYKO and I'm like, New York Knockout, that is so catchy. That's so exactly what I wanted to say. So the different things that I would say, of course, we have like, I'll come out in like a 1970s bell bottoms, jeans and bell bottoms, and do like folkiness, maybe like jeans, bell bottoms, and a hat. So it's kind of like Western folkiness, 1970s Western. Then the next one would be like kind of like Stevie Nicks essence with like some darker colors and some fringe. And that would be like more. So the first one would be like singer songwriter with the acoustic guitar. Next part would be like I'm just the front woman of the band, being kind of like mystical and stuff like that, and dancing around the stage and interacting with the audience. Then the next one could be like very like performer like, where I'm showing up in like a top hat and like almost like a ringmaster to a certain extent. And I would do all my kind of like tongue-in-cheek songs, and I hula hoop too. I do some like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily circus, but it does give you that visual. I hula hoop and stuff like that, so we could have like fire dancers, and I'm like hula hooping, and I'm like dressed up like I'm in the circus. Then I would say the next phase would be just like low key, back to the acoustic guitar, but yeah, just like someone you'd see at a coffee shop or something like that. So all sorts of costume changes. I have lots of ideas.
Oh yeah, the flow arts are really they fascinate me. People that do the flow arts and the when I was doing techno clubs in Miami, people would come in with their glow sticks, and maybe they may or may not have been on something, but certainly the glow sticks part of it, the light show, the fire dancing in the Florida Keys. We had the island life, and there's fire dancing and all that. But the flow arts really do fascinate me. And even just the people that can do the fingers. Taylor Swift has a Shake It Off video, and I know she was celebrating different dance styles, and one of them was just the finger thing that people do, that kind of but it's I can't even do that part, but I used to pop and lock when I was a kid, and so I was a break dancer. But no, I celebrate that. I like those arts.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like those arts. And go ahead.
I'll have to check out that video you mentioned of Taylor Swift. I don't think I've seen that video. I like her. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I listen to more like rock and roll type music, but I do really like her album Reputation a lot. Oh yeah. Yeah, the flow arts are so great. Like it's like meditative movement, and like I feel just so connected to the energy and like the world when I'm hula hooping and all that.
Oh, amazing. And all right, I haven't really perused the Instagram part. Do you have your hula hoop out there, and do you do shuffle dancing and all that? I used to call it the Running Man when I did it.
Yeah, right. Actually I posted a video recently of me hula hooping on Instagram, and in my upcoming video, just a little teaser, I have a video coming out on 11/11. It's next Wednesday, or whenever you're listening to the podcast. Maybe the video is already out, but it comes out November 11th. And I'm doing a little bit of hula hooping in that too. And that video is like, it happened to be like a cloudy and kind of gloomy day here in Los Angeles where I'm based. And I was like, this is perfect for the song because it's kind of a gloomy type song. It's about dealing with addiction throughout 2020 while being isolated in your own house. you know, and isolation is one of those things. It's like, well, maybe I could do that. I mean, maybe I could handle it. It's not that I always drink too much. It's just that I sometimes drink too much. Well, heck, I'll give it another shot. And it's like, well, I already know how this is going to end. So that's basically what the song is about. Sometimes I'm like, should I tell them? Should I not tell them? Should I tell them? That's what the song is about. So it's like it's called A Tall Order too, right? So it's a gloomy day in LA, and it showcases that strength to get through to the other side, because as I'm telling you, I did get through to the other side. And so I think people are going to relate with that, whether it's something that they had to deal with like substances or something during 2020, or maybe it's not being able to see friends or go to work or whatever it is. I feel like people are going to feel the strength that's in this video.
Well, it sounds like you open your heart every time you write a song. It's whatever you're thinking at that moment in time, and the question already gets answered. Even if you're asking yourself, should I or shouldn't I? The answer is almost undoubtedly, yeah, I should. And you write it all on the paper, and you pour your whole heart out there, and you know that that's the way that you're really going to connect with people, is to have it all poured out. Yeah, you could write a pop song and rhyme heart with apart, and say it several times over and over and over again. And yeah, you wrote a pop song. Yay. It might get some airplay, but to have one that has resonance, that has feeling, like a Led Zeppelin song or a Grateful Dead song or a Who song that tells a story that's going to last a long time, you really have to pour your heart out. Now, do you agree, or what are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I also wrote some somewhat commercialized songs recently with a producer that is part of the Grammys. She's a Grammys member, like part of the group that chooses who votes on the Grammys each year. And writing with her really brought out this essence of like, how can I concisely say something? Because going into the writing session with her, I was thinking, I really want to write something that you would hear on the radio. And it would be like, it just is commercialized. It's polished. A lot of people can relate to it. I think that's a big part of it, is like the messaging being relatable. And I realized, I'm like, oh, wow. As we were in our writing session and we were getting so clear on what it was we're trying to say, I realized that I don't have to use lyrics that are super artsy. You know, I don't have to make something, I think super artsy or super indie to get my point across. I can still get my point across in a pop-like format and be authentic through that. And that's just being available to go to different parts of who I am as a person and as a character. Like, that's a part of me too. I listen to some Britney Spears. I listen to Keys Dan, House of Britney, you know, like I do resonate with some of those more pop-like songs. And then on the other hand, after we wrote those songs that I'm so excited to record, we're going to be recording in May in Nashville. I also doubled down on a few other songs that I wrote for another project that are about anxiety and depression. And they're so wordsy that it's like almost hard to sing. It's like da, 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 all these different words, all these different words, all these different words. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can have multiple aspects. I can have my pop style. I can have my folk, poetry, Joni Mitchell style. And I can still be the same Kendra and the Bunnies. It can all be one, you know? I don't have to limit myself.
Yeah, no limits. And you still consider yourself an independent artist, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to getting signed, but also I think the independent art and music industry is so great. I mean, with the internet, anything is possible.
Yeah, there's advantage and disadvantage to both. Once you have more producers or more suits getting into the mix, they may say, no, you have to be just this one thing. They did it to Taylor Swift. You know, when she was trying to come up with her second album, they said, oh, no, you have to have at least 2 country songs and then 2 pop songs. And then, you know, it has to be this way. And they were really steering her in a direction that she didn't want to go in. And I wouldn't want you to be
Right.
limited. I want you to have those opportunities to have those pop songs those traditionally American songs that repeat themselves over and over again. Those traditionally American songs that repeat themselves over and over again. You know, they keep on repeating. And then you can also do those songs that are storyteller songs. You don't have to be just one thing. And as an independent artist, you have that. You have that ability. I appreciate that. I know we've been talking mostly about the music, but you are more than one thing. You got the acting and then the politics of Kendra Muecke. You kind of hazed upon it that you don't want the things of the past. You have to learn about the past, and the mistakes of the past, or else we'll make those mistakes again. So that's happening now. I talked to a gentleman.
Over and over again.
Yeah, I talked to a gentleman earlier about the Civil War, and he was kind of it's kind of mirroring what's going on now. The country being so divided. Is that what the politics of Muecke is? Is that what it is, or is it something completely different? Am I off the mark?
Well, it's so funny. It's called The Politics of, and like I do discuss my viewpoint and perspective on things. I don't necessarily talk about politics, but I talk about the entity of answering to someone else. I think that's one of the biggest things I grapple with in my day-to-day life. And it could even be a higher power that one doesn't quite, agree with or think they agree with, or whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense. But so the politics is the part of like, this is who I am, the components of me. And these are what make me up. And then I do get into a little bit about like my perspective on humanity and society. Like one of the things that blows my mind is it's like, we are all humans and we all like kind of want the same thing, which is like good day-to-day life and family and to be heard and to have a platform to be heard. And I mean, there's just so much. And so I touch on politics in here and yet not at all. So it's like, I mean, independent. It's independent.
No, it's a rather thick binder that you have there. And yeah, I agree. Most people are right down the middle. It's just the people on the far, far right and the far, far left that get amplified on social media and cause such a ruckus. My goodness, if people have to know, okay, we're not just one thing. I took a little from column A and a little bit from column B. And we'll have a meal right here down the middle. People, there was a saying, there's nothing down the middle of the road except yellow lines and armadillos. I disagree. I think that there's plenty of room down the middle of the road because the people on the far right and the far left are driving way off the road. And, there's plenty of room for the rest of us right here in the middle of the street. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
And to have a conversation on like how to create a good existence day to day. I was just talking with my friend who I was working with on a song earlier, and we have opposing political viewpoints. And it was like of course there was like that moment where we're both like, oh, I wish they understood it the way I understood it. But then we were like, hey, well, what's really cool is that we're able to talk about it. And it made me realize I'm like, oh, well, they have a whole reason for why they think what they do. And they realized I have a whole reason for why I think what I do. And I was like I'm like, well, if I grew up how you grew up and I was you, I'd probably think the same way you do. And if you were me, you'd probably think the same way I do. But it's just the extremes, and it gets shown on social media. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. It almost, I feel like it's because of its entertainment and shock value of things. And if there is truth to these things, then wow.
Yeah, it's whatever's engaging. Wow. It's whatever's engaging, whatever's going to keep your eyeballs on that particular social media platform. That's what they're going to show you. What did you click on? Oh, yeah. Coming full circle to the beginning and where we're talking about the social dilemma that just came out. And yeah, everybody needs to watch that film and kind of, get an idea of how your kids, maybe not you, as an older person, but someone whose kids are growing up through this, their eyeballs are going to be focused on these various things, and they're going to be steered by these social medias, whether they like it or not, or whether they want to or not, and they're going to be sold items that maybe they may or may not have needed, and mostly that's what it is, to make money, and that's the ultimate goal of these people, I suppose.
Yeah, and then also like my generation is a product of the early internet, as well as through my generation is very much a product of the beginning of reality TV and everything being shown, the beginning of reality TV and the beginning of the internet. Whereas this new generation is completely from social media, and that's okay too. It's just interesting to see like where a lot of these characteristics come from.
Oh yeah, my reality TV was going out and actually experiencing reality. Go out and play. I'd leave the house on Saturday morning on my bicycle, and my mom would not hardly know where I was the whole day until the streetlights came on. And I better be home before the streetlights came on, or I'm going to get a shoe thrown at me. I had a shoe throwing mother. Yes, I did. But yeah, tell me more.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because when we go out there and we like meet other people and we have these experiences, that is a very healthy way to learn things. And of course, I'm not up on my high horse saying one thing versus the other is the healthy way to learn things. I just know from my experience that going to music festivals and being a part of, I played softball for 10 years. That was a huge part of my childhood and teenage years, is that like being on a team and going to theater rehearsals and all of that was very informative on who I am now. So it was like, of course I was influenced by the stuff I was watching and stuff, but being an active participant in our lives allows us to make our own decisions. And social media is great in a lot of ways that it's great, but on the other hand, it creates this like homogeny of everyone agreeing with each other. And if you don't agree with them, then you're hashtag canceled or your hashtag irrelevant or something, so it's like trends to the extreme, taking trends to the extreme. Because a lot of things that people say, if you like want to get popular on social media, it's like, oh, well, look at what everyone else is doing and then emulate that because that's working. And if you jump on that bandwagon, it's shown success already. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll do a little bit of that, but that's something I've never done, where I've gone, oh, look, that's popular, let me do that. It's like the opposite. I'm like, oh, that's popular. No. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. We're going to listen to the Ramones.
Yeah. I suspect that, my thought is, if I like it, somebody else is going to like it. If I like it, I'll put it out there. I came up with this idea to where I could learn from people. And I've learned so much from you already, Kendra Muecke, so much about, how songs are written and your viewpoints as a young person in this world, and putting it to song and putting it to paper and putting your views out there. That's sticking your neck out as a young person. And I mean, do you have the fear in the back of your mind, oh, if I say the wrong thing, I'll be canceled, and it'll be hard to get back from that?
Every day of 2020, I've thought that. And so I was just like, okay, well, I've had to reformat my mind and think, how can I be a best role model for all these types of people? Because I'll have all types of people from all walks of life. And I mean, I just want to be that kind of space where people are able to feel like they can be themselves and bring together. I mean, my whole mission is based on world peace and unity. And so to create a space where I'm kind of somewhat neutral, but don't get me wrong, there's like rants on my phone where I'm like, I would love to post this on social media, but I can't. And then I have the whole rant, and then I'm like, a week later when I rewatch it, I'm like, wow, am I glad I didn't post that? Because either one, I've gotten more information and I have realized I was spot on, and that's, would have created a schism in my audience. Or I realized I'm like, oh, well, I've learned some more information, and I was just really worked up then. So yeah, I've realized that. And I think that if people want to come forward and be very vocal about their opinions on social media, that's very awesome, because I love that when I see influencers who are like, this is what I think, this is this is my opinion. I'm like, oh, power to you. I'm so glad that you're doing that, because I'm saying my thoughts and opinions, but I'm also being mindful of letting people know that they are allowed to have their own opinions. So like, I can have fans with all sorts of opinions, and it's not just like, oh, Kendra has fans and they all think the same thing. It's like, Kendra has fans, and it's a very diverse group of people.
Kendra Muecke, if there's anything that you've said in this podcast that has resonance, it's what you just said. Put that rant on your phone, but before you post it, take a beat, take a breath, take a day. I know that there's fear. Oh, if I don't put this out right now, it won't be relevant by the time I get it out there. No, take a beat, especially if it's going to hurt somebody. There's a possibility that it could be hurtful, that it could hurt you or someone you love, or anyone really. You took a beat and you didn't post it. You got some more information and you realized, whew, dodged a bullet on that one. Good job, Kendra.
Or it's like, if I were to post it, it's like either I get more information or I emotionally am at a better place the next day. And it's like, oh, well, that was a representation of how I felt yesterday, but that's not a representation of how I feel every day. And so if I want to go into that lane of like very opinionated commentary on like YouTube and stuff like that, that's cool, but realize that's a lane.
Yeah. But then you're apologizing and you're backtracking and you're deleting tweets. Oh, I had to delete that.
Or you're like doubling down and being like, heck yeah, I'm so right about this, and everyone has to agree with me.
Well, we've had 4 years of that, haven't we?
Some would say.
That man's been tweeting and doubling down for 4 years, and even before that. All right.
He's very entertaining.
Oh, for sure. Talk about reality TV. I love it. All right.
Yeah,
Well, let's.
yeah,
I know I've taken quite a bit of your time, but let's explore the acting. I guess you went from Houston to California. Is California the place you ought to be if you want to be a more rounded entertainer? Is that where the acting came in, or did you start doing it in Houston?
I started acting in Houston way, way early in my life, and then came to California because of the weather, the entertainment industry, and just the culture of everyone being like on to something. Everyone is on their own hustle and their own grind, like I'll go to the coffee shop and it's like I run into someone and they're like, we're talking about stuff, and then they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm also working on this project and this music project, and you might run into your next drummer or someone who's going to book you for a show or book you for something at the coffee shop. And I love that energy in LA. It's really magical here, and it's an interesting time. After college, so I moved here for college. After college, post-college, I moved to Denver, Colorado for 2 years and just soaked up the music scene and the good vibes and people just feeling good and having a great time, and the mountains and all of that. And I was just like, wow, I found so much peace and serenity in myself that I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to LA and really give this a shot. Yeah, I like it here a lot.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm listening to some podcasts, including Rogan's, and he left. He thinks that him and others think that California is about to implode, but you find that it's worth it. You're getting opportunities. You have people that are working on projects that you may be able to get involved in.
Well, I mean, Joe Rogan's not wrong. I mean, there's definitely some things in California that you could go on a Joe Rogan type podcast and talk about, but I think that overall for me, California makes the most sense with everything that it offers. It's such a beautiful place, and the people are really, really great here too. And there's so much opportunity.
Well, very good. And then when you got out there, what was your experience when you stepped off the bus and was opportunity opened up for you, or did you go out to California with something already in mind?
Well, I came out here for school, so that was a good kind of buffer. And I knew exactly, came out here for school, that was a good buffer. Then post-grad, I moved to Denver for a while to do soul searching. Once I was in Denver for 2 years, I was like, I'm ready to go back and really give it a shot in LA, because I hadn't given it a career shot in LA yet, because I just like wanted to make sure I was ready before, because once you make a name for yourself out here, people know you as that. So I was glad to like go and find out more about myself, come back and have a solidified, message and persona and image that I knew. So like when I came back and really started to give it a shot in LA, I was like, knew exactly how I'd present myself as like a kind of alternative and yet popular. And by that, I mean just like alternative, but also like somewhat mainstream type artist with these hippie influences, but also like a feeling of the Western feel of America. So I did know all of that before I launched, but at the same time, there was so much new that was revealed about myself. Like, I'd been going by the nickname Ken Bunny, K-E, and now I'm spelling it, Ken Bunny for a while, but I hadn't solidified that I would name my band Kendra and the Bunnies. So it's like little things along the way. I knew exactly what to do, but little things along the way are revealed on the path.
Well, you answered a very slight question. On the bottom of your website, it says published by Ken Bunny. And I thought, well, maybe that's another person. No, it's you publishing. So you build your own websites. Yeah. Well, you've already alluded to it. You're a smart cookie. You went out there for college and you said post-grad. So that means you graduated. So what did you graduate with?
Yeah. Theater arts, acting.
Fantastic. The girl, yep. the girl said, "Oh, I want that," and you realize that it is a job. So just like any other job, yep. You have to get some skills. And did you feel that going to theater school, do you feel like that helped you on your way to where you are now?
Absolutely, and I'd say a lot of what helped me was learning the work ethic and learning that to utilize all the resources that I have, being on a college campus, and it's like, oh, well, I can go here for tutoring. I can go here to meet with other people. I can go to the filmmakers after school meeting. And I just realized there's so much that's accessible. So now I also studied music later on too. Once I got back to LA, I went to like a 6-month independent artist course that was so helpful, because I knew everything about, stage acting and like being a stage manager and being behind the scenes, on the scenes, in front of the camera, behind the camera. But when it came to music, I was like, I want to go learn like all of the same types of things, but in the recording studio and like with like how to tour, how to manage as an artist and stuff like that. So I'd say it got me prepared mentally for the fact that it's like, utilize all your resources. Everyone is a contact. And just like, helped me think in that professional manner, because now I'm a business owner and it can be a little daunting at first. It's like, oh, well, I'm answering to myself. Mm-hmm. But I know how to do that because of years of having to get the paper done on time and stuff like that. And also working in the, just working in general, like post-grad, just working and learning what a hard day's work is like.
Oh, Kendra Muecke, you'll never work harder in your whole life than having your own business, because you work 24 hours a day. You have to structure your time. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do this 8 to 5. I'm going to do this 7 to 3. You definitely have to structure your time, or else you're going to be working all day and all night thinking about your business and the entertainment business. Mm-hmm. It could be daunting. Do you have an agent that helps you find jobs in the music field and then the acting field, or are you doing it all on your own?
I have an agent for acting. I have a manager for music who helps with my booking, PR, and getting my songs on like playlist and radio. But it was definitely like a learning curve to start building my team, because it's like when I first started, it's like, okay, I've got the music and I have social media. What do I do now? Or I had written the book already too, but it's like, I've got the music, the guitar, and the social media. What do I do now? So I just started from where I was. I went to go study on some courses in person in Hollywood at the Musicians Institute, but you can also learn on YouTube. You can pick up books. There's so much information out there. One just has to be ready to start the journey.
Well, I mean, do you think going to a structured class is better than watching a YouTube video? Yeah, I've learned a lot on YouTube. I've learned that you can do, I've made a bow tie out of a regular tie, just random things like that. And you can play guitar. But do you think going to a class and learning with a group of other people is better or worse or different or additional?
Yeah, I think that going in person is a better way of learning than virtually, just because I like to do that more. I feel like I pay attention more when I'm there in person. I'm also like, well, if I'm going to get up and go over here and be over here, I'm going to pay attention every minute in class. Whereas like sometimes when I'm doing, YouTube tutorials or webinars and stuff like that, I love that we can do that online, but every once in a while I'm like, oh, well, I could answer that email right now. Okay, 1 second. And then I'm like, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, right, I'm in class. Okay. Yes, where were we? Oh, right. Oh, sorry, teach. So I think in person makes a little bit more sense, and it's personalized. And I guess virtual learning is personalized too with Zoom and all that. But with YouTube, sometimes I can be like, want to actively learn versus like, oh, what's my phone doing?
Oh, yeah. You stay more engaged when you're in a class, a formal setting, I think. But you're right. You can veer off into the social media highway and, oh, my goodness, 2 hours just went by. How'd that happen? But you got to California. Yeah. Let's go through your IMDb just a little bit before I let you go. What's Lars the Emo Kid and Connections and My Crazy Ex and Little Bitches and America's Court with Judge Ross and The Reaper. I guess an actress, if you want to act, you just go off and act. You do different auditions and you go for the jobs, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah, those projects were all so fun. Lars the Emo Kid, I was actually on set with in Houston, Texas. So that was right at the end of high school. And then that was by an independent filmmaker there named Joe Grisafi. Then, like you mentioned, the movie Little Bitches, it was so cold that night. A lot of times, if you notice in like movies that you're watching, so like the weather in LA is generally like 76 or like 83 or something, but during the winter sometimes it'll get really cold at night, and it's really just like, you're there, it's sunny during the day, and then all of a sudden the sun sets and it's like, dang, it's kind of chilly. It's like 50 something or 60 something. So we were on set for this movie in the Mulholland Drive area. It was like right off of Mulholland up in the Santa Monica Mountains. So it's like right outside of LA. And like during the day it was like sunny and kind of hot. And then at night it just got chilly because we were in the mountains, but we were filming a scene for the summertime. So if you notice ever when you're watching a film that lots of them are filmed in LA and you notice someone in the background and it's supposed to be like a summer scene and you see someone in the background in a long sleeve shirt, that just means they filmed it in the wintertime in LA.
Oh, for sure.
So that was supposed to be a summer movie, but it was like, we were there at 3 a.m. and I'm just like, oh my God, it's so cold. And then they're like, action. I'm like, huh, yeah, happy summer. And then they say cut. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so cold.
You reminded me of my days in Miami. When it got to 50 degrees, we flipped out. What? It's 50 degrees. I was going to the beach today, which is almost every day. All right. No, Kendra, I mean, shoot, I've got so many different avenues of view. Where do you want to go with this? Do you want to continue acting? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to continue with music? Do you want to do all of it? Writing the books. Before I go any further, how do we get a hold of the books?
Oh, right. So to answer your question, I do want to do it all to a certain extent. And just like wherever the art takes, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm an artist So if the art wants to take me like 5 more poetry books, that's perfect. And then if it's like, I'm working on a memoir novel right now because I just feel like I've experienced so much. I want to get it onto the paper so I can, experience a whole nother set of events too. I've got the music will always be there. The writing will always be there. Acting is great. I love being on set. I think like all of it, and as far as like directing, I mean, I definitely like to be in front of the camera. So if I directed, it would be like, I'd be like Alfred Hitchcock. You'd be able to see me in the background of like 1 or 2 scenes. And they're like, is that Kendra? Just walking by in between the birds or the cars. Yeah. I love that about Alfred Hitchcock. It's just so funny. You're like watching a film and you're like, is that? Oh, there he is. So these books you can get online on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online. You can also get them on my website or message me directly on social media, and I'll hand sign the copy for you. But if you want to look them up on Barnes & Noble or Amazon, just type in Kendra Muecke. My last name is spelled Muecke, and they're available there. My music is under Kendra and the Bunnies, and that's on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all the streaming platforms, Pandora. You can bring up a Kendra and the Bunnies station. And then on Instagram and Twitter, I'm Ken Bunny, KenBunny. It's like I say that so often that when I said Ken Bunny earlier, I just started to spell it. I'm like, Ken Bunny, KenBunny. So that's how you can get a hold of me. If you want to book me for anything or, inquire on business type things, you can reach out to me at Kendra and the Bunnies, mgmt@gmail.com.
Well, yeah, right now, I guess in California, it's completely locked down. Are there any gigs now, or is anybody doing anything movie-wise, music-wise? How are you spending your time?
We've started having auditions and stuff. But lots of auditions are virtual anyway. So I haven't been on set for anything, but I've had friends who've been on set and they said it's just, socially distanced with masks, less background actors, just a more bare bones crew and stuff like that. And the crafts table, the food table is now like a little bit less because normally it's like you're on set and you're like, oh, look at this. There's like cheese, there's fruit, there's fresh oranges and crackers and blah, blah, blah. So they were like, oh, the crafts table looks different. It's not just like an open spread of food anymore. But yeah, things are starting to open slowly but surely. For music gigs, I've done some outdoor music gigs, which still makes sense here because even during the wintertime, it doesn't get too cold. But I was in Denver recently and they have like their indoor places open. So California, just outdoor places, live music is coming back. But in places like I was just in Colorado, it's just socially distanced, but they'll let you play inside. Same with Arizona and Texas, because I was recently there too.
Oh my goodness. Well, all right. I have taken a bit of your time. Any other avenues you want to explore? Any shout outs you want to give to the people that have helped you out? Always give credit where credit is due. People that help you along the way.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. First, thanks for having me on your show. This is such a great conversation. It was lovely to meet you. Shout outs. Well, first I'd like to thank, I recently brought on someone onto my team that I want to thank. First of all, I want to thank my producer, Matthew, Matt, wait, why did his name just jump out of my mind?
Because he's brand new. I've
known him for so long.
No,
Kilgore. Matt Kilgore. No, I'm talking about one of my good friends. I'm like, what's his name? Matt Kilgore. He's just like so great. He's who I was working on a co-write with earlier today. And then the second Matthew that I was going to mention, I think his last name. Wait. Is it Matthew Kilgore and Matthew Gilmore? That's why I just got confused.
That's pretty funny.
The other Matthew, I just brought on to help me with merch, and I'm so excited because he's like really excited about Kendra and the Bunnies, and that makes me so happy to have someone who like loves my music and is like, we should do this for t-shirts, and you should get coffee mugs, and you should do pens and paper and stuff like that. That all's labeled Kendra and the Bunnies. So those are the 2 shout outs for today. And then, as always, my favorite manager, Birdie Bo at B Squared Management.
Excellent. Always give credit where credit is due. The people that help you out. Kendra Muecke, I knew this was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good. This is fantastic. I hope this is not the last time that we chit chat and talk about things, talk about life, talk about world, and talk about the place that we are in, in this world, how we should be acting, helping each other out. Always take care of yourself and then try to take care of somebody else if you have the means, the ability. But I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. Kendra Muecke, it could be words to live by, some stuff that you grew up with, that you've maybe a mantra, or it could just be whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Kendra Muecke, last words for the people.
Well, one question: where are you based, Dan?
Right now,
what city do you live in?
Yeah, right now I'm in Conway, Arkansas, about 30 minutes north of Little Rock. I got here in 2009 and changed my whole life, I guess, from Miami to Little Rock, Arkansas. So I guess you went the opposite way, from a country southern town to a more laid back, a type of, more, I guess, I don't know, more inclusive, I guess. I don't know. I guess inclusive is whatever group you're in. But
Right.
But you were saying? Well,
I grew up in Houston, Texas. It was a big city, so it was actually Houston's really, really inclusive. Yeah. It's so special in that way. But I do know what you mean, and I totally understand that. Words to live by. Also, I'll have to come perform in Arkansas. It's exciting to have new fans in new places. I think I have a couple in Arkansas.
You got me.
I'll have to check it out.
I'm a fan.
Travel to Arkansas.
You just broke the law.
To live by are. Breaking the law. The words to live by are, be yourself, believe in yourself, love yourself. I mean, people will tell you, or maybe they won't, but from my experience, people will tell you, oh, well, you should do this. Well, aren't you like this? Well, what about this? And it's like, do take that advice, but understand at the end of the day, you're the person that knows what to do next. Just like the story with Picasso, it's like, okay, sure, he could venture away from his style, but at the end of the day, what makes him him is just being oneself authentically. And sometimes that changes, and sometimes we more or less stay the same throughout the years.
Well, there you have it, party people. Kendra Muecke. Oh, I could have talked to her for hours and hours and hours more. She has so many avenues, so talented, so far ahead of the game, such a young person, and already doing so much. Got her own company. What's funny is I was a DJ for a long, long time, and I didn't incorporate until I was in the business, let's see, 86, 96. It was 18 years before I actually incorporated. I wish I'd have done it so much longer before that. Incorporate yourselves. If you're going to start a business, incorporate yourself. I'm an S Corp myself. I know people use LLCs, whatever. It covers you tax-wise, and people, they pay the business. They don't pay you personally. So it helps you in many respects there. And you can offset your personal taxes with your business taxes. I don't know why that came up, but definitely, if you're going to start a business, incorporate yourself and go all the way. And I guess that's why it came up, is because Kendra, she not only wants to do these things, wants to be a musician, wants to be an actress, wants to be a writer. She doesn't just do those things. She goes all the way. She learns about those things. You go to school, you go to a formal setting, you learn it on YouTube, whatever. You learn your craft, and if you're going to have several crafts like Kendra Muecke, then learn all of those crafts. Go to school for theater, go to school for music, go to school for writing. You'll learn these things and have a good formal education. It's good to learn from others too. You get that formal teaching, and if you have other people in class, you learn better. Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. Kendra Muecke, I have learned a lot from you, and you've done so much in your young life, and I see nothing but great things for you. I appreciate you being on the show, and I look forward to talking to you again as the time progresses and you do more and more things. All right. If you, yes, you, my loyal listener, would like to Tell your story. I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.